contracts for Steve Swift reviews. He punched me twice in the face and asked for a duel. The pugilistic prophet with newbies diagnostics, like Scroobius Pip but less toxic. The UK comic shooting stars never lost it. It's 2025 and the internet still dies. Guys are chasing algorithms like a crack pipe high.
This is the Bees of Boxing. I'm Chris. He's Steve. Thank you so much for everybody who's watching this on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who's listening on all of your podcast providers, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Podbean, where you can get all of that stuff as well. Steve, let me ask you about this one, though. AJ, Anthony Joshua, is already on weight. He's got a fight coming up with Jake Paul. And he's already on weight for this thing because they set these ridiculous, things where he's got to be no more than like 245 pounds or something like that. And he's already on weight for this fight coming up. Is he already doing more to sell this fight than Gervonta Davis did?
Yes. In fact, actually, he is, and Eddie Hearn is, because Eddie Hearn said he's got to make weight. You have to cut weight. He won't. That's nonsense. And he also said, which is extraordinary, if AJ loses, he should retire, I should retire, and all boxing should finish. Extraordinary. The thing is, Tidster, that I'm really quite shocked because I think, and I reckon MVP thought, and Eddie Hearn thought, that you announce this fight, people go, oh, hell, he's big. And then that kind of big fighter, little fighter, and all the, well, he could be seriously hurt stuff. Can't believe he's fighting him. That lasts for weeks and takes you right up to the fight. And I don't think it has. I think that kind of big fighter, little fighter, people have gone, yeah, okay. We have a short attention span. And I think that they're having to do more. Having seen the episode of the MVP, Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua thing that came out a day ago, I just watched it. It looks to me like two fighters who need good news. It doesn't sell the fight to me, but I don't think anything else has. People are repeating, oh, he's just really big, isn't he? Oh, he's just really small. We've had that every day on Talk Sport, more or less. And I'm bored with it. And I think so are others. I
think that Anthony Joshua said something that made me go, oh, he's putting it out there already. He's already putting it out there, ladies and gentlemen, and it might have probably went unnoticed. But he said something very smart and truthful. And one thing that you have to remember in all of this, Anthony Joshua was a professional boxer for 3 years before he got a title shot and became champion, to his own admission. And he has said, boxing has changed. Athletes are changed. These young guys are different now. He just basically put it out there to say, hey, don't sleep on this Jake Paul guy. He knows how to throw a punch. I have to take him seriously. He's saying all of the right things for this. Is this the precursor? Is this the precursor for what we're going to see, or what we could see with Zuffa and some of the main events, where we can see these fights that don't really mean anything? And is this all leading to what we've said before, where we're going to see Jake Paul at that table, where we're going to see Ben Shalom, where we're going to see Terrence Crawford, who's going to be at that table, because all of these guys will be without, take your WBC belt, take your WBA belt, take all of those other belts and stick them straight up your ass. Hey, Usyk, you want to make money, or do you want to have a little shiny trophy? All of these guys are going to pick the money, so they're going to go in for these big money fights. But sometimes these big money fights might be a little bit, David and Goliath like. Is this what we're seeing?
Yes, and a lot of stuff has happened recently. So today, I think it is, we've had a message on social media from on Twitter X, name change is not really taken, saying from Tyson Fury, or rather Queensbury, Tyson Fury on a throne, it's time for me to come back to my throne. It's immortality. Yawn, yawn, yawn. But they've said it. Plus, you've got the floating of the idea of Katie Taylor versus Ronda Rousey. So you've got all of this. And now the women are doing it. And, even though people say it's nonsense, that'll never happen. I saw Gareth Davis saying oh, that'll never happen. But just to announce it just opens the gates and says, hey, this is happening all the time. And so it's not in the corner anymore. It's not a kind of smelly little thing that you think that's not. And this is now mainstream. So all of this works together with the sanctioning body stuff.
How many times, Steve, have we announced stuff so far in advance and people have been like, it's never going to happen? And it happens. It happens, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of like-mindedness out there. You know, just because you're too stupid to come up with the idea doesn't mean that others aren't. Come on now. Give your head a shake. Listen, it just kind of shows me that boxing is absolutely silly right now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But what it is, I mean, we spoke about this the other day, didn't we? Or a few weeks ago, which is that the thing that that Zuffa and TKO will be doing, Seller will be doing, is not boxing. It's not Legends. It's not MMA. It's a TV show. And that's what boxing has become. It's a reality TV show. And right now, Tidster, and I feel prescient in this, the business of boxing more important than the boxing of boxing.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because there's TV show things happening that aren't on a TV show in boxing too. Think about that. These dummies over at Misfits Boxing. Let's talk about that before we wrap all of this stuff up here for a second, shall we? Because, you know, that's going to be coming up as well, where the new CEO, Andrew Tate, is, you know, boxing the heavyweight champion, Chase D'Amore, who couldn't chase his own shadow, let alone box it. Jesus. Ronda Rousey has better videos of throwing hands than Chase D'Amore does. It's not gonna end well because the whole thing just screams of WWE storyline where, KSI is no longer the boss. Andrew Tate is now the boss. He's going to fight the champion, probably beat the champion. And then we're going to have the storyline play out because KSI and Andrew Tate will fight not just for the heavyweight belt. No. We're going to fight for the ownership and the pride of the company, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, this screams of, it was me all along, Austin. This has Vince McMahon shit written all over it. It's gross.
It is. And it also feeds back to The Outsiders, which feeds back to and NJPW. You know, this is definitely a wrestling situation. Yeah. KSI, there is, and he hasn't, you know, when we talked about wrestling in the 80s, and you had, for instance, an angle where somebody was hit in the eye or something like that. You know, I can't remember who it was, but they didn't come out for weeks. And when they did, they were led around and they had their eyes covered and all of that. You don't get that now with KSI. What you get is KSI doing messages where he seems really happy to have been thrown out of Misfits, which is ostensibly his organization.
And here's the other thing. You're out. You've been thrown out of the organization. But then he goes and makes announcements of boxers joining his organization. And not a flex. I'm sorry, KSI, not a flex to boast that you have Vidal Riley. I hope I'm saying his name right because, you know, if I'm not, I apologize. Not really. I don't care. Here's a guy who's actually a boxer. When younger, signed. This is why it's not a flex to me, Steve. He signed to Mayweather when he was first broke in. That fell apart, and he ends up going to Boxer. The deal with Boxer fell apart, and everybody thought because of, the situation with Boxer that he was going to go to Matchroom, and Eddie Hearn was going to open up the doors to everybody from Boxer. Come on over, because I want to destroy Ben Shalom. Shut up. But no, that option wasn't there, and he ends up at Misfits Boxing. So not a big flex when you're like, yo, the guy that couldn't make it here had to go to here, couldn't make it here, had to go to here, couldn't make it here, had to go to here, and finally ends up with us. You've literally signed a 13-year NFL veteran and you're the CFL. Shut up.
It's extraordinary. It's and the thing is that you would expect that if they were really going for this angle and leaning into it, it would be a few months. But what they did is they said, right, he's out. And next week.
Right. Well, because they've got nothing. They've got nothing. And this is the thing that we're falling into with a lot of these things. A lot of trying to do these stories and trying to fill this void that they think needs to be filled ends up leading to more of their demise than anything else. And that brings go ahead, Steve.
Well, I think I was going to bring you in because if I'm a little shaky, it's my cat, by the way, who's around me at the moment. She's very sweet, but she's very keen. It brings me. I think I'm bringing you in because they don't have enough meat. They need the meat, which is the product, to come in. You know, when we saw KSI a while ago saying, I'm going to fight an ex-footballer, right? Boo. Okay, I'm not going to fight an ex-footballer. So all of that stuff, they were very lucky with the Darren Till and then Carl Froch being there. But that clearly was more luck than good judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, they need fresh meat and there isn't enough out there because everyone is saying, you can come over here and do influencer boxing. You could come over here and get more money. So actually, there's not much meat left.
No. And even Darren Till has distanced away himself from this story bullshit. He's like, yeah, I'm not even getting involved with this one. Forget it. And you talk about meat and what can happen as well is if you spread yourself too thin, right? If you don't have enough and you already spread yourself too thin. And that happens what we see with a lot of these guys where, like, for example, boxing used to be like there was one fight a month. Big pay-per-view, one fight a month. MMA was the same way. The UFC was the same way. You had your big pay-per-view once a month. Now it seems like a weekly thing. And the only way to compete with these moguls like the UFC, like PBC, or like boxing in general now, because there's just so many of them, is you have to run on a weekly basis, it seems like, or you have to try to do something on a much more of the reg. And BKFC, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, kind of came in to fill up this void. And when they first came in, everybody was like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is absolutely insane what they're doing out there. And some of the fights still to this day, you watch them and you're like, you people are savages, absolute savages. But even they, it seems like every week seem to be running a show. And then what happens, Steve, you know as well as I do, that you start running a little thin. Now, let me give you this premise because this happened as well this past weekend, Steve. The BKFC had some fights that was headlined by a rematch. And the headline, one half of that headline was a 43-year-old professional boxer, Austin Trout. Now, we're talking about a guy who has been in there with the likes of Jermell Charlo. He's been in there with, Canelo Alvarez. The guy has a win over Miguel Cotto. Okay? Like, this is a dude who's been there, done that, been in with the best. He's no Vidal Riley, I'll tell you that. But he's headlining this card. And they decided that Austin Trout was going to be such a draw with this thing that they didn't need to fill it up, it seemed like, or couldn't fill it up with regular fighters, or maybe just the whole organization got exposed a little bit more for how they run on a very indie level, Steve. Because you know as well as I do that sometimes some duties on a show, on a production, stage or otherwise, sporting or otherwise, have to be taken up by multiple people. This right, one person doing multiple jobs. No shame in that. That happens. But I don't think that there should ever be a time where the commentator is also the fighter. I don't think that there's a time where the cut man is also a fighter. I get it. You're trying to make some extra dough and stuff like that, but there's just certain roles in the company that shouldn't happen. You don't see that in the UFC. You don't see, well, I was about to say you don't see that in boxing, but I mean, Frank Smith would love to see Eddie Hearn throw on the gloves and fight Ben Shalom at some point. But, you don't see stuff like that. But in BKFC, you did. They had a fight where they had a gentleman by the name of Gaston. Yeah, that's right. Gaston Reno, who is like an Argentinian. He's part of the Argentinian announced team. He's very popular in Argentina, and they're looking to, go do some fights there. But no, this guy is also a fighter. They also have one of their full-time cut men who's there working for the company. Yep, this guy G. Perez is also fighting last Friday night. This is ridiculous.
Well, is this that they think it's Conor McGregor's promotion, isn't it? BKFC.
Yes.
Is it? I mean, Conor. I've reached. Conor. We talk all the time, and he's not mentioned this. He said, "Come and have a steak." He's not mentioned the cut man. But anyway, is it that they think it's so popular and they've got such fans that they will know who this announcer and this cut man is, and they'll think that's exciting? The guy who was usually doing the announcing. Is that it?
In Philadelphia. I can understand if you're doing this in Argentina, and maybe this guy is. Maybe this is the equivalent of having, Ronaldo come and fight for you or something like that. I don't know, Marcus Maidana or something like that. Like, I don't know. But I don't think that anybody gives a crap about anybody. Name me one guy from the Spanish announce table, Steve.
I'm drawing a blank.
Don't just say Perez. Don't just say Perez.
I'm drawing a blank, Tidster.
Exactly.
It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite bring it to name.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So is BKFC, are they finally, are all of these guys going to have to take a step back and realize that, number one, maybe you don't have the money. Maybe number two, you don't have the means to compete with these other companies right now.
Because BKFC run America and Europe as well, don't they?
Oh, they're trying to run everywhere right now.
And when you consider that, is it BKB, bare knuckle? Their last British main event was Paulie Malignaggi.
Well, they can't even afford a fourth side of the ring, Steve.
They've got the Trigon, Tidster, which really makes it so much more exciting.
What they should have called it was the Try Again. The Trigon. Or the Try Go Away.
But you're right. This is kind of boxing, bare knuckle or influence or anything else eating itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because once you start to, opening stuff up is great, and opening stuff up to other people is great. But when you say anybody can box, anybody can bare knuckle box, anybody can do anything, then you're kind of opening the whole thing, and you're saying, well, anybody can do anything then. So you're nothing special. No right. Boxing is special. We've just discussed the belts aren't fucking special. So, boxing is special at all. It doesn't really matter. Tyson Fury can come back and fight anybody he wants. Andre Ward probably. And, nothing's special. So it's eating itself. And, I said that I think, that influencer boxing will be gone early next year, which I still believe it will.
Yep.
But I think it will have a massive effect on boxing because it will have infiltrated boxing, and then we'll have nothing really matters. There's no top 10. There's no belts. It doesn't really matter who fights who, and then people will just switch off.
Yeah, I think there'll be an amalgamation of this stuff, right? Where it gets blended in. You take the best of it It's just like with indie wrestling. It's just like with any, with USFL or, the small, your neighborhood soccer teams. It's the same kind of thing. You find out where these things are from and you bleed it into the mainstream stuff. And that's fine. I mean, I still just want to see Jake Paul get knocked the F out. I think that this leads back to what we said a while ago, where we called this a while ago. So remember, I'm going to say it now. This is going to be the switch. Where Jake Paul gets knocked out. He takes the beating and he comes back as a babyface, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see this thing happen. Jake Paul is going to turn babyface at the end of all of this. And if not, he's going to fight Paulie Malignaggi in the Trigon. I'm there.
He could do that. Or Alexander Usyk would fight him because he's already said he'd like to. And listen to this, Tidster. I'm calling it now. Alexander Usyk is the smartest man in boxing right now because he is the one who's been noticing this and saying, as having fun, I'll just decide who I want to fight, Deontay Wilder. He said before, I'll fight Jake Paul in an MMA ring, in an MMA fight. He'll do this because he now doesn't see himself as a boxer. He now sees himself as his own brand, not a brand that other people make, his own brand. And he will do whatever he wants. He's up for it all of it. And he will be sitting at that table as well. I'll tell you that. And that's one of the reasons why WBC are saying, we want you on our side. Because Turkey Al-Sheikh and Dana are going, come over here, mate. Because actually, we think you talk a good game as well. You've got a good translator, you speak good English, and you're open to anything. Come over here.
Makes you wonder. I wonder if Alexander Usyk is paying all of his sanctioning fees with crypto. Think about that for a second.
You can have as much crypto as you want, but you can never get it out.
Think about that. He's living in the middle of a war-torn country right now that probably has some stuff going through it. He's probably got access to a whole lot of crypto because of his name value. I'm not saying that it's a reality, but could you imagine? Could you imagine if that's what we find out one day, that the WBC has been taking their sanctioning payments in crypto? That's great. Love it.
But we know and we note that this whole thing is linked. I'm not saying this is conspiracy theorist. I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat, as you say. But the whole thing is linked, and we are the only ones linking this.
Unbelievable. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.